If you ever had a friend who was doing harmful things towards others and you realize that it's your responsibility to turn them on and create awareness over their actions, you might understand how I'm currently feeling filming this video. Because in all honesty, throughout my life and journey, I have always maintained some sort of connection with Jesus. When I was very young and still religious and Christian, I was believing that Jesus was the Son of God. I never convinced myself that he is God. I could never convince myself that he is God. And if you are interested to see my take over God and how I reconnected or how I found God outside of Christianity, please check my other video. I will also put the link in the description box. But when I'm speaking about God, I'm not speaking about the religious God. I'm not speaking about the Bible God. I'm not speaking about Christian God. I'm speaking about the real source, the real creator we all have, and that creator is outside any form of system belief, religion, Christianity, denomination, whatever is human-based created, is outside of those systems. So when I'm talking about God, I'm talking about that God. I'm not talking about religious, Christian, whatever God, system-based God. I'm not talking about that. Getting back to Jesus, as I mentioned, I have always felt a connection with Jesus. When I was very young, I was thinking of him as being the Son of God who came here to save us, to open the gates to heaven for us. And then later on, when I detached from religion and I had my spiritual awakening, I started to think of him as a teacher. I still didn't cut the cords or the connection with him, and I perceived him as a master, even more so as an angelic being incarnated on earth, coming to help us to raise our awareness, our frequency. And as a teacher myself, I mirrored my own principles onto him, my own reasons onto him, and I have put him on a pedestal. And from there, it was very difficult to put him down or to see him through realistic lenses. And what convinced me actually to take a very good look at him was the relationship I had with God, with a real God. Because the rationale behind it is, firstly, we know that there is a law of cause and effect. We know that karma exists. We all agree with it. And if you're here, you might also believe in incarnation. It makes no sense to have only one life. There is no potential for evolution as a soul, or as an individual soul or conscious energy. So incarnation is real. And I can tell you it's real through my own experience. I know that it's real through my own experiences and through my own mediumship abilities, connecting not only with angels or God, but also with the souls that passed away. I have worked as a medium, and so I connected with other souls, and in a way I proved to myself, just I was proving to those who were coming to me asking me if I can connect with their past loved ones. And when I had their responses that the details I was providing were real with their loved one, then this was also reiterating my belief in what was going on outside of this physical realm. But this video is not about that. And so we have incarnation, we have karma, and then we have God. If we take the God outside of religion and we look at our creator as a light being, we can see how there is absolutely no link in between the real God and the God from Christianity. Because if we all agree that God is light, then we agree that God cannot create angels and then us, the fools. God cannot create separation. God won't send its own son. We are all his sons and daughters, but God won't create his son on earth to be punished, to be murdered, to be humiliated for our sins. It's just is contradicting itself. Like, let me harm you so I can forgive you from my harm. It just doesn't make any sense. And so we have the God of light, and even when we don't understand all the details, the best thing to approach this is, okay, I'm not having all data, but I won't conclude that the God is the one that is allowing all these nasty things to happen, or is creating all these nasty things, or that is putting in the Bible rules about slaveries and rules about woman humiliations, and it just doesn't make any sense. And so I avoided for a long period of time to actually see what was going on with Jesus. And each time the question that was coming into my mind in regards to Jesus, like, okay, if Jesus was an angel incarnated on earth, why was he murdered? And if why God allowed him to even incarnate here on earth? This was a question I couldn't answer, and I didn't want to answer. I was backing off each time this question was popping into my mind. I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want, when this question was popping up on my mind, I was like, oh no, well, I don't have an answer, because I either think of God, my God, as a being that will murder someone who is innocent, will send it on earth innocent to be humiliated, or I'm thinking of Jesus in a way that is negative, and I put him in a bad light. And so we can see here how the indoctrination works. Although I knew all these laws of the universe, laws, if you want to call them laws, I knew about karma, I knew about incarnation, never once I thought that maybe Jesus was having a karma in regards to this. I never thought until I have had absolutely no way to back off from it. At some point, it came as a choice. I either choose God, the God I know that is a being of love, and I trust him that he would never send someone to be killed, someone innocent to be killed, or what is the answer? What happened? And this is where the walls broke, and this is where I could see the reality of what was really going on. And in all honesty, the Son of God, the God itself cannot have human sins, because God never incarnated on earth. It will never incarnate on earth. It doesn't need to incarnate on earth to know what is currently going on. It knows through the connections it has with us. It's very subtle. It doesn't have to come here. It doesn't have to send someone to be punished by us, to trigger our impulses, to trigger humiliation. Even more so, even if Jesus was, let's say, not God, but it was an angelic being, again, it doesn't happen, because an angel gets to be outside of the Bible. I have to create so many videos to clarify this aspect, but outside of the Bible, angels are not made angels. They become angels through their own resources. You as a soul can be, or can get to the same level of awareness and wisdom at the same time. And so when a being reaches that level of awareness, it cannot fall, and it cannot have a crime as a sin. Crime creates a very contrasting energy when it comes to analyzing how karma works. It's very difficult to analyze karma through the lenses of being poor, but it's very easy to analyze it when there is a strong contrast, like a murder, a crime of some sort. Is very contrasting, and is very easy to see. God will never send an innocent person on earth to be humiliated, to be murdered. If this happens, it's because that person had a similar karma. They did to others what it happened to them. And it's even more difficult, but I believe that Jesus was not even crossed. I believe that it's double-edged here. I believe that it was not Jesus the one that was crossed. It was one of his followers. If you read the Bible in the section where it says about this is the prayer on the cross, it doesn't sound like Jesus. It sounds like a person praying to his own God. And a follower definitely would see Jesus as his own God and would wonder, why do you punish me? Why do you treat me like this? Why you don't forgive me? Why am I passing through this? Aside of my own little psychic test, but I can't put that as a proof. I just can tell you that I suspect that Jesus was not even crossed, and his karma was something along these lines. Either that in past incarnations did something similar to someone, where he either accused someone or did a trick and someone else's died instead of him or for him. I do believe that there was some form of understanding in between him and Judas. And when Judas came to kiss him, it didn't kiss Jesus, it kissed someone else that was looking like Jesus. There are some texts and books that are treating this topic, and it makes sense why it didn't get in the Bible, because the whole reason for which Christianity exists is because of the crossing, and is because of the resurrection. Through these lenses, it makes much more sense why the Bible, and the first text were written 30 years or 35 years after the crossing happened. And I suspect that this is when Jesus really died, really passed away, because if they would be very loud about how Jesus resurrected, then, him being alive, then the Romans would have wanted him dead, basically. And through these lenses, we can see why there was no reason for them to be too loud about Jesus being alive, and why he continued to hide. So if I would urge you to seek more information on your own and to research this not from a religious perspective, not through indoctrination, but objectively, to take into consideration all aspects, and to research from a historical perspective. There are scholars who are having this type of information. Just pay attention to not follow someone who is left or right, someone who is neutral, because what you want is a historical type of information. If you are searching through an IE, I would not recommend ChatGPT, because it's very right-handed. Through is what I've noticed. I would recommend using Google IE or Gemini. I believe this is more a more neutral. It has a more neutral approach. Do what you want with it. For me, I have even without this, it doesn't matter for me if Jesus was the one cross or someone else. In regards to looking at Jesus as a real God or not, because regardless of those aspects, there is a karma. And if there is a karma, a pure soul doesn't have a crime as karma. When we take the life of someone, when we unalive someone, we cannot be God. It's not how God works. I know that in the Christian mind, there is this, like, it's not, this wiring is not firing yet. But a light being won't create harm to others, won't unalive others, won't cause someone else's to be unalive. This creates karma. And I will treat the topic of karma separately. It's very sensitive. And very complex. I will treat it separately, but just looking at the lenses of what light truly is, and then compare it with how God from the Bible is being depicted, you won't see God in the Bible. You'll see something that is, I would associate it more with devilish. Because no God, no real God of light would create laws about how to take advantage of woman, how to, as a woman, how to humiliate others, how to sacrifice, how to expect blood sacrifices, how to create all sorts of, I can't even, and I will treat this separately as well. Just how many times I said that. It's just not possible. It's not how a light being works. It's not how light works. And egocentrism is not something that belongs to a divine being. It belongs to someone who has been on earth, who has an ego, who has a low vibrational energy, who has darkness in it. And even Jesus itself came here with a God complex, with a narcissistic behavior, with a preaching behavior of trying to say that, oh, it's like the fake healing aspect of it. When I started to read those texts about how actually Jesus was behaving and speaking, I started to lose the connection with him on the side of even being a spiritual teacher. Because me as a spiritual teacher, I would never put myself as, you will find God only through me. What is this? This is a narcissistic behavior. This is someone who is very ego based. This is not someone who has anything to teach you. But it's very easy to listen to these people simply because they are very confident in what they are saying. They are speaking about 2-3 words that are positive. Oh, I'm love and love. But then their actions are not based on love. They are based on egocentric behaviors. And so I cannot believe that Jesus is God. I never believed that Jesus was God, but even more so afterwards, I don't believe Jesus is an angel. I don't believe him to be a master of any sort. I believe that he's a soul as everyone else with a problem, a karmic lesson around God complex narcissistic behaviors, and with a heavy karma in regards to unaliving others and taking advantage of others. This is what I believe. And those of you who expect Jesus to come back on earth, he won't come back on this earth. He came back, but not on this earth, simply because the mark he left here on earth would create issues for him to learn his lessons and outgrow, because it would create an attachment. It would not help him to break the pattern. It would actually support his pattern, because he would recognize automatically himself in everything else. And so when we come on earth, we come to grow, to expand, to learn. We don't come here to perpetuate our negative patterns. It's not a sin to do mistakes. We do mistakes in our journey. But this doesn't mean that when we unalive someone, when we harm someone, we won't create a cause and effect type of energy, because we do. And I will dive into this when I will touch the karma topic. But yes, this is what I'm having for today. This is why I don't believe God, or I don't believe Jesus is God. This is why I don't believe God is in the Bible or in any other system. And the reason for which I started this channel from this angle, more specifically, is because I realized that there are so many people who don't believe in the real God, the real creator, simply because they associate God with the one from the Bible, with the one from multiple religions, and they either go extreme, so from being a Christian towards being an atheist. And from what I've noticed, even the atheist people are not against a loving being that might exist. They are against the being that exists in the Bible that punishes people. And they don't have answers to questions like why this happened, why so much pain. Well, there is an answer for that question, but as I mentioned, when we trust that God is light, and we don't have an answer for a question like, okay, why things happen the way that they do, then instead of saying, oh, God is not real, it's best to wait for, or it's best to think in terms of, okay, maybe I'm not having the answer now, but how about waiting to see when that answer will come? And it should be in alignment with that light energy, because we have a very mixed and very, very messy understanding of what light really is. And part of the responsibility is due to religious beliefs and the fear that was created. And you will recognize that you are talking with a fake God, because it requires for you to follow him. It requires for you to trust into him, to have faith into him, to praise him. The real God doesn't do that. The real God is there, is loving you, and when you ask for help, it won't offer you the help the way that you want, but it will help you through awareness, through clarity, through nudges, because it cannot interfere with the energy of earth, and it won't interfere for specific reasons. And so do your own research, but if you want to find a real God, I suggest watching my other video. And I also suggest to think in terms of the connection you have on a soul level. So it's within yourself. It's not outside of yourself. And you are always connected. It doesn't matter if you consider yourself an atheist, a Christian, whatever beliefs you have. It doesn't matter, because when you love your light, when you protect your light, when you love others, when you are compassionate, when you are empathetic, when you don't judge others because they are whatever, having different sexual preferences than you, when you accept others just as they are, when you love everything, animals and all other species that exist on earth, this is when you love God. It's period. It doesn't matter if you consider, oh God, please help me. It doesn't matter. When you love and protect your light, when you love and cherish others for their own light, and when you look at others through the lenses of compassion and empathy, you love God. It's simple as that. And all the rest, all other beliefs are just beliefs, and God cannot be found in any form of system belief. But this is what I'm having for today. Thank you so much for being here. I wish you a lovely day, and we're going to speak soon.